Welcome to the Genius Way Show with your host, Ben Hummel. The aim of this show is to provide education, encouragement, and insights for people who are on their own personal development journeys. As a psychotherapist, teacher, author, and creator of the Genius Way process, Ben will focus on identifying common challenges to living a purposeful life, and will share valuable psychological and spiritual tools to help you make healthy and empowering life changes. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey friends, and welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummel. Thanks for joining me here today as we're going to get into the topic of what is self-inquiry? What is a self-inquiry practice? And so, as you know, my work here is to help people get in touch with and discover and then eventually express their genius qualities, which are basically your kit of leanings and callings and creative expressions that you were born with that are meant to be expressed in this lifetime. So in order to do that, in order to get in touch with that, we have to develop a practice and a technique of self-inquiry. And that means asking questions and deeply listening to ourselves in various ways. So one of the ways that I want to start talking about here, which is something that is really pretty easy to do and pretty well known, is the practice of self-inquiry that is journaling. And so from an early age, a lot of us like to write in diaries and write about our experiences, write about our feelings and stuff. But when it comes to finding genius, when it comes to finding that self-expressive part of yourself, we need more than just a blank page. So what we would do is then journal with a prompt. Like, here's the question. So an example for a prompt for finding your genius is like something like this. What do I always have time for and gives me energy in my life? What do I do that I always have time for and that gives me energy instead of taking it away? So there's the prompt, there's the setup, that's the question. And you kind of just write down whatever kind of just pops out to you in stream of consciousness form. And what we're doing with the prompt is to actually find that part of yourself that actually knows what that is, what the answer to that is, and really, really giving plenty of room to flesh out that information that you're carrying with you about what that part of your genius is. What is it that you do that gives you energy and that you always have time for, instead of dreading it, instead of dragging your heels, instead of, avoiding. And so that little prompt technique is one way of asking that question. So why is it important to ask a question? When we're digging for answers about who we are and what kind of alignment is going to be right for us, what kind of choice, what kind of path as far as self-expression, whether we're talking about career, we're talking about relationship, any of those things, artistic expression. The thing that's important about asking that question is because somewhere in us we already have the answer, or that handful of answers. Somewhere in us we already know. And when we're just kind of living day to day and we're paying the bills and going to work and dealing with the crises that come up every day, we never listen deeply enough to see what's already there, what's already self-evident, what we're already kind of programmed for. And there's a lot of things that in particular, me, you, any person is kind of meant to be doing. So one of the things I like to work with my clients with, whether it's a therapy client or a genius coaching client, is finding a way to, once we've found that ingredient of their genius of like, this is what I like to do, when we find a framework within which to put that quality. That's kind of the second step. But in terms of the first aspect of it, the self-inquiry practice, It's not just asking the question. The second part is also a deep listening. So developing the ability to listen deeply for the response to that question. Okay? And knowing that it's there somewhere. So this response in the self-inquiry practice, it might come through writing. It might come through a feeling that gets evoked by asking the question, and then you kind of write down. It might come up as an image where when you're writing, after asking the question, all you see is an image and you kind of draw that image. Like for instance, if you say, what do I always have time for? One of the things that I always have time for is when someone asks me a sincere question about the path of awakening, or about, their genius, or about even their psychology. For me to be there and kind of connect with that person, to see where they're at and sincerely be able to answer that question for them, or help them find that answer for themselves, I'm always there for that. That is what makes me tick. I love that ability to connect with people on a deeper level, where the exchange that we have changes both of us. So that's what I know about myself. What do you know already about what you always have time for, what gives you energy, and what doesn't feel like work to you? What do you know? Okay, so you start with that little thing. What do I know? You ask the question, and you let whatever is there kind of pour out, whether it's some words, in stream of consciousness form, whether it's an image, whether it's a feeling, whatever it is for you. And then when you're listening to it, it's important to have zero criticism of whatever you find. The first thing when you ask a question and give you that prompt, what is it for me that I always have time for, and that, makes me feel really good, and that gives me energy instead of taking away energy? The first thing that occurs to you is usually the freshest thing. And that it's not usually just one sentence. It's kind of full. There's a lot more to it than just here's a plain answer. It usually comes with, it's like a multimedia, with a feeling, with an emotion, with an image. All those things come up, and it's important for you to learn to gather that information that you are mining from that part of yourself that knows. Okay? Because ultimately, when you are kind of looking for your genius, looking for your particular avenue of self-expression, and whether it's for a career, for a hobby, for, again, relationship, whatever it's for, it's important to listen to yourself and know that when you're following that, you are following your own inner guidance. It's not something that someone told you. It's not a super imposition onto you. It is something that's kind of coming out from your core, and as you listen very, very deeply, you're following your heart of hearts. Okay? That's what we're looking for here. Because when you do that, you can't go wrong. You will never go wrong listening to your heart of hearts, listening to that path that's already inside of you, that with a little bit more attention paid and a little bit more deeper listening, you'll be able to kind of see it where it is, listen for what it has to say, and literally be able to follow it. Okay? So the best thing we can do from this line of self-inquiry is to learn how to listen to our own guidance. Okay? So when we say that, listen to our own guidance, what does that mean? Which own are we talking about? So if you've done any kind of inner work, you'll know that all of us have a whole bunch of parts to us. There's a part that gets angry about this thing. There's a part that gets weepy about this. There's a part that takes charge in this situation. There's a part that, can stay silent when it needs to. There's all these different parts, okay? And when I say listening to our own inner guidance, what I mean by that is the part that we talked about last week that is kind of the manager or the witness to all of them. And that part does know what is right for us and what bundle of gifts we brought with us and how to express it. So it's not about necessarily, bombarding ourselves with this idea. Maybe I can be a fireman. Maybe I'm a disc jockey. It's not about that. It's about there's something already here that we need to listen more deeply to. Okay? Because so when a lot of people are on a search, let's take a spiritual search. I have lots of friends that travel all around the world studying with these different teachers, and that's all beautiful stuff and its influences and everything. But ultimately, we have to come back home and we have to listen to who we are at our core for our guidance. Okay? Because otherwise, it's just somebody else's idea that we borrowed, somebody else's path that we borrowed. Each one of us has our own path, and it's not in opposition to anybody else's path. It's just something that's already laid out for us that if we follow it, we will end up being genuinely who we are. We'll end up being authentic. And that's kind of the path of genius. What have we brought here with us to express? What does it take to get there? And what are the tools that we need to kind of get there too? So in my book, The Genius Way, Expressing Your Unique Gifts, which is that one there, I teach 10 life skills. And so these life skills are, in a way, different ways, different angles pointing to your genius, all from different areas on the compass pointing inward to your genius. Each one of these life skills kind of allows you to see a certain aspect of what it feels like when I'm in my genius. Okay? And so these life skills, I believe, should be taught to children when they're growing up, so that they know, as I'm selecting a career or as I am, experimenting with different things to see what my expression is, they have these skills so that they know, I have something with me already, and if I follow that thing, it's a path of fulfillment for me. It's a path of happiness and, sense of purpose and so forth. But these 10 skills, just like anything that you learn, once you learn the skills, you don't have to think about them anymore. They're just operating in the background. Like if you're a really good guitarist, you don't think, I'm going to do a bar chord here and then an A minor here, and then I'm going to do a little riff over here. You're not thinking about those things because your skills are all there. They're in the kinesthetic memory of your fingers. They're in all of the things that you practice for all this time. And they're just kind of operating in the background so that when you have something to express, they're available to you. Same thing with the Genius Way life skills. When you learn all these skills and you practice them, and one of them is about the self-inquiry, okay? They all use the self-inquiry aspect. You're going to know how to listen deeply to yourself and how to, without even thinking about it, hone in on what your genius is in that certain instance, where your path is, where your next step is. All right, so we're going to watch a little video now about this exact thing. And when we return, we're going to dig in deeper and give you another aspect of self-inquiry. I'll see you on the other side.
Have you ever paused to ponder the question, who am I, really, beneath the layers of persona, roles, and expectations? This question, as simple as it sounds, has the potential to unmask a profound universe of self-discovery and personal growth. Consider the story of Maya. She was a successful businesswoman. She had wealth, status, and a lifestyle many dreamt of. Yet something felt amiss. She felt like a stranger to herself, lost in the chaos of the world. One day, she stumbled upon the ancient Greek aphorism, "Know thyself," inscribed at the Temple of Delphi. Intrigued, she decided to embark on a journey of self-inquiry. She began asking herself, who is Maya truly, when stripped of all her worldly titles and possessions? As she dove deeper into self-inquiry, she discovered hidden aspects of herself. She unearthed her passions, her fears, her dreams, and her authentic self. She realized she had been wearing a mask, conforming to societal norms and expectations. Unmasking her true self, Maya discovered a sense of peace and fulfillment she had never experienced before. Her journey of self-inquiry led her to make significant changes in her life. She quit her high-paying job, pursued her passion for art, and started living a life that felt more authentic and fulfilling. Her relationships improved, her stress levels reduced, and she felt a newfound joy for life. Now you might be wondering, why is self-inquiry so important? Well, it's because it allows us to understand our true selves. It helps us distinguish between who we are and who we think we should be. It peels back the layers of conditioning, revealing our authentic selves. Self-inquiry is an empowering tool. It fosters self-awareness, leading to personal growth and transformation. It provides clarity, helping us make decisions that align with our true selves, rather than being swayed by external influences. Moreover, self-inquiry can lead to inner peace. By understanding our true nature, we can accept ourselves as we are, with all our strengths and weaknesses. This acceptance breeds self-compassion, reducing stress and improving our overall well-being. To sum up, self-inquiry is a powerful tool for self-discovery and personal growth. It allows us to live authentically, make decisions that align with our true selves, and find inner peace. So the next time you find yourself wondering who you are, remember the inscription at the Temple of Delphi, "Know thyself." Dive deep into self-inquiry, and you might be surprised at the profound insights you uncover. Remember, the journey to self-discovery is a personal one. It might be challenging at times, but the rewards are immense. So dare to ask the question, who am I really? Who knows, you might just discover a whole new world within yourself.
Yeah, so that's a little video about, different types of self-inquiry. And another way that I'd like to share about is something that I do each week on this show, which is a guided visualization. I call it a guided visualization instead of a guided meditation because the visualization is meant to evoke images and to call forth material that you have in your either your unconscious or your prima conscious, so that you can kind of see it and curate it and know and get answers from that. So every week I do a guided visualization here where I set it up so that when you listen to this in a really low key way, when you're very quiet and very still, and again, in the guided visualization, there's a prompt that allows your psyche or your unconscious to fill in the blanks. And I try my best not to put any of my stuff in there or do anything that's too suggestive. Just a blank canvas with a little bit of a prompt so that you kind of bring up your own material, your own ideas, your own leanings, your own genius qualities as a result of the prompt. And everybody's experience is going to be different. And so listening to one of those guided visualizations and kind of going through it, you get another chance to see what is there. So I'll give you this example. If I tell you you're going to the beach and you're walking along the beach and you see a little kid, and the little kid is playing with a little plastic bucket and a shovel. Right there, I want you to ask yourself right now, is the little kid male or female? What color is the bucket? And then what color is the shovel? Okay, I can't guarantee when I said little kid and bucket and shovel, your psyche, your subconscious filled those qualities in. You know if it's a male or female, you know what they're wearing, you can see the color of the bucket, you know what time of day it is. And so your psyche is kind of filling that all in just out of necessity from the prompt. So that's why it's a very, very good way of self-inquiry to start with just a regular blank prompt and see what gets filled in, see what occurs to you, see what shows up as a consequence of giving yourself that little prompt and not having anything else to do at that moment, but to deeply listen to what shows up as a result of that question being asked. Okay, so that's just a little example. So when you're doing a guided visualization, you got to know that it's not about accuracy, or it's not about seriousness. This is about letting your kind of imagery just kind of fly, just let it happen. Because the freer you can get with that, and the less you try to squeeze out an answer, a lot of amazing things are going to occur to you that weren't otherwise available. So when you deeply listen to yourself, it's not a strenuous exercise. It's more of a really, really gentle letting go and feeling more expansive, so that your interiority is free to summon any kind of image or feeling or anything that's kind of just right there waiting to show up and kind of let you know what it is, what's there, what the response is to the question. So we're not really going for answers when we do the guided visualizations. It's not an answer, it's a response. When you have the correct prompt, or a prompt that allows you the freedom to have whatever response comes up from you, you will see many things that may even really surprise you in terms of what you're carrying with you, what kind of information about your life and your path and your sense of purpose that you're already carrying with you, that without that inquiry, without that deep listening, without that prompt, it's not going to show up. It's important to note too that while you're doing these different types of self-inquiry, to use the technique that I call unconditional positive self-regard. A couple episodes ago, we talked about unconditional positive regard when it comes to a therapist working with a client. They kind of take the client's side. They don't have their judgment of their own. They don't have an agenda. They just kind of really get that person wherever they're at. And so I use an idea along those terms when you're doing self-inquiry of unconditional positive self-regard, where you literally, while you're trying to discover something and doing the self-inquiry, you have to suspend judgment. If you don't suspend judgment, a lot of material that's going to be very, very important for you to understand about yourself is going to be relegated to no, that doesn't make sense, or that's silly, or that doesn't belong there. Look, if you're doing a self-inquiry, it's important just to see what comes up, because whatever is there has a purpose for showing up at that time. It's not inconsequential. It all matters. And it's important to move into that self-inquiry, especially if you're learning something new about yourself, which is, usually that's the case, to move into that when you are in a state of non-suspended judgment of yourself. That's one of the things that we humans really like to do. We like to judge ourselves. We like to criticize ourselves and feel like, oh, we're not getting it, or I don't understand this, or I never get this, or this always happens to me, or any of those things, But when you're sticking your neck out to try and learn something about your innermost being, it is so important to suspend that judgment and practice unconditional positive self-regard just for that time at least. If that's all you can do it for, that's great. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're going to become a narcissist and a criminal, and you're going to just blow past everybody's boundaries. It's not about that. Remember, you're trying to do something here. You're trying to learn something about yourself that you don't know yet. You're trying to learn something about yourself that hasn't been known, and therefore it's important for you to kind of like give yourself as much leeway and freedom and space that you can give in order to like let whatever's there come out and answer you. And I hope that makes sense. So it's important practicing unconditional positive self-regard. And so the fact is, we can change our lives. We can change the part of our lives that we would like to change, that are not working well for us, the parts of our lives where we're kind of falling short of where we want to be. We can change that largely by a self-inquiry practice, because when we don't understand something about ourselves and we have like lots of different people or things that we're trying to get answers from, they don't really hit home the way that self-inquiry does, because self-inquiry is learning to deeply, deeply listen to the answers that are coming from yourself, you know? And so we may get a suggestion from here or there, but ultimately to change our lives, we have to change our ability to be able to listen to ourselves, to listen to what is right for us in terms of how we're wanting to change. Right? So that's why, going back to this idea of a guided visualization, it offers little prompts to bring up the material in your psyche that you're wanting to understand, and whatever it brings up, it's usually a surprise. And that whole idea of suspending your self-judgment and criticism is completely and absolutely necessary, right? So what's more here? What's more about this self-inquiry practice is that, when you do the self-inquiry practice and you kind of take on this responsibility to listen to yourself very deeply and to look into your own experience for answers, there's another layer of responsibility that you take for your own development, Instead of kind of literally waiting for something on the outside to come and change you, or some event or some realization, doing the work of self-inquiry helps your personal development kind of happen exponentially. And the more you can tune in to what you already have there as guidance and as material to point your feet on the path of your genius, then the faster this whole idea of evolution and growth is going to happen for you individually, right? So self-inquiry is the key for a really, really potent life path of personal development. All right, so now I'm going to guide you through a guided visualization designed specifically for this. And what you're going to experience here is, I want you to see it in this way. The prompts that I'm giving you in the images in the guided visualization, I'm not giving you any answers. I'm just setting up something so that your subconscious or your prima conscious can fill in the blanks, just like that little visual I gave you around the bucket and the sand and the kid on the beach. Your psyche is going to fill in with your material, with your own inner wisdom, with your own inner information. It's going to fill in this little story. So I want you to see it in this way. This is always about you. This is always about what you individually are bringing forth from yourself about this visualization. And it will always bring you what you need to hear and see about yourself right now for the specific thing that you're trying to answer, that's specific bit of insight you're trying to get. So let's do this in this little commercial here, then a guided visualization, and we'll come back and dig into this subject more.
Ben Hummel's writing comes from a deep well of experience, practice, and wisdom. The Genius Way teaches you the life skills you need to find your own unique genius. Summoning Genius helps readers to turn a midlife crisis into an opportunity for personal growth. You can find Ben's books on thegeniusway.com, Amazon, and most online booksellers.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and then deeply exhale. As you're breathing deeply and slowly in and out, allow a question to appear in your awareness that pertains to a decision you're needing to make in your current life situation. You don't have to try to figure out what the question is, because when you relax and breathe, the question appears all by itself. What is this question that appears to you? And now, imagine that within you there is a deep well of wisdom where you can ask any question and in turn receive answers from your own depths. See yourself going to this well and ask it your question. As you're asking, you feel that the well contains a deeper part of yourself that's alive and engaged and has something to share with you regarding your question. What does it answer? And now allow yourself to dialogue with this deeper part of yourself, back and forth, until you have the insight you're seeking about your question. What else do you want to ask or know? Allow any and all information to appear from your deeper self that wants to show itself to you without any judgment or criticism. Just let it be what it is. You can see now that in this calm and still space, you can access your deeper self in the well of wisdom within you at any time you wish. And now, with this experience fully intact in your awareness, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into this room. So, were you able to see how everything that was prompted for you, everything that came up was part of your material, your own inner guidance? And hopefully you were able to find some answers to those really basic questions, and in turn, do this yourself for whatever you need to, whatever you need your own insight on, whatever you need to learn about yourself. Keep going back there, because it's kind of like an endless mine of information and material and insights that you have within you. So here's another thing that I'd like to share with you. There's another technique that I like to use for myself and my clients, and it's called a transference dialogue, where here basically you're literally asking yourself a question and having a conversation with a deeper part of yourself. So if this takes a little bit of it's a little bit more involved, but what you do is you kind of have either a notebook with a pen or pencil, or you can do it on your computer. What you do is let's say I do mine on my computer, and I want to ask myself a question. What is the import? Why do I keep getting sick all the time? It doesn't matter. It's not happening to me, but it's something that you could ask. So why do I keep getting sick all the time? And you write that down in uppercase, let's say. Then in lowercase, you kind of just wait for an answer, and you just kind of let whatever answer come. And it can make sense. It could not make sense. It's not about trying to be wise. It's just letting whatever arises come up and write it down, whatever it is. Then you go back and you have a dialogue with that, whatever that answer was. And the answer says, you're choking on something from your lunch, cheers. If it says you're choking on something from your lunch, and you can write back, am I not chewing my lunch well enough? This is a silly example, but you have a dialogue with this thing. And what you're going to see is that you're going to get some really, really deep insights, and you can go on as long as you want and, kind of stay in that state where you're kind of silent when you're letting that deeper part of yourself answer. And I guarantee you're going to be very, very surprised at how much information comes up just by being willing to access through this transference dialogue a deeper part of yourself. Accessing like this kind of, like I always call it, it's like a mine of information. You're mining your own consciousness for answers. Okay. And with the transference dialogues, like I said, it's important to just let whatever comes up come up. Let whatever it is happen. I remember one time I was asking some questions about it, and this image of this giant ant came up. Okay, don't question it. And the ant was talking to me about certain things or whatever, The psyche, like, think about when you're dreaming. What sense does any of that make? Only when every once in a while you have a very profound dream and you're like, wow, that was really powerful. But mostly every night, it's kind of like a Dali-esque scene in your dreams. All these weird images and things you haven't thought about for years, and who is this person and who is, it doesn't seem to make sense. But yet, that is a place that it's rich in meaning, in symbolism, in content. It's directly related to everything in your life. It's not just random. And the same thing with the transference dialogue. Whatever comes up is part of the answer for what you're actually looking for right now. So one of the things you can do in the transference dialogue is ask for a figure. And again, it's not an entity or a spirit or anything, just a figure in your own consciousness, some kind of personal figure that is kind of like a wise person. And you can kind of dialogue with that aspect of that part of yourself in that form. Like, for instance, Carl Jung would, do all these transference dialogues at different times in his life to gain this kind of information. And he had an old wise man, I forget the name of it, started with a P, that would always come in and speak to him. Again, it wasn't an entity, it was a part of his psyche. And Philemon is the name. He would experience a dialogue with Philemon, and having a conversation back and forth with Philemon in Carl Jung's life, he would glean a lot of really amazing, deep truths and answers about his life and insights. So there's a lot of ways you can take this transference dialogue part of self-inquiry. it can yield a lot of beautiful answers and a lot of amazing, beautiful life changes can come through this information coming up. Okay, so we're going to stop for another short commercial break. And when we return, I will share with you a bit of inspiration to send you on your way.
Hi, I'm Julianne Meyer, the host of Own Your Wellness, and you can watch my show on Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on Achieve TV right here on E360 TV. Remember, there's more to health and wellness than broccoli and burpees.
Self-inquiry is essential for personal development. It's the act of asking our deeper self for guidance that's specifically for us right now. Practicing self-inquiry helps us to trust in and be guided by our own intuitions, and although we may be used to looking outside of ourselves for answers, it's never too late to begin with the practice of self-inquiry because our deeper self is always there, ready to provide the information and insights we need. The more we learn about the core truth of who we are, the better chance we have of making informed decisions that keep us on our genius path, leading to a life of fulfillment, meaning, and life purpose. And that's our show for this week. And before we hop off, I'm going to start a new function of the ending of the show where I'm going to give you guys a journal prompt for your week. And so here's this week's journal prompt. Which activity do I always make time for and gives me energy instead of taking energy from me? Okay, you can see it down there. And take that with you and do your self-inquiry practice using that as a suggestion and write about it, think about it, meditate on it, whatever you want to do with that. It's a way for you to mine the answers that are already there in you that are going to make a big difference in your personal development journey. Okay, so until next week, I invite you to stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummel on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel.